If you have ever seen D'Alembert's principle, you have definitely been surprised by how simple it seems. So the Newton's second law is F equals ma, and the D'Alembert's principle states F minus ma is equal to 0. At first glance, you might think it only takes a 10-year-old schoolboy to make this move. But for scientists, it took years to make that transition. So who was D'Alembert? Was he a fraud or a genius? And what does this transition mean? Stay with me if you want to find out. So Isaac Newton in the year 1687 published his legendary book, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. In this book, he stated the laws of motion, and the Newton's second law is summation of all the forces equals m times a. This was the first time that we, human beings, could predict the motion of the system based on its external forces. But Newton's method had one shortcoming. As systems get more and more complex, it becomes more and more difficult to use this approach, since for every mass, all of the external forces had to be determined, and each coordinate needed its own equation. So complex systems become extraordinarily difficult to solve. Later on in the year 1715, Johann Bernoulli could overcome this shortcoming by introducing the principle of virtual work for static systems. His principle stated that if we add a small fictitious disposition, which is acceptable by the constraints of the system, then the summation of all the works done by all the forces of that system is equal to 0. In this way, we could solve more complex static systems easily. But it was not until the year 1743 that this method was extended or generalized to dynamic systems. So Jean-Laurent D'Alembert was the first one who generalized the principle of virtual work to dynamic systems. By introducing the inertia forces, he stated that dynamic systems could also be assumed in equilibrium, in a dynamic equilibrium. An example, I will show you how this method helps us solve more complicated systems easily. So here we go. This is the Atwood's machine. It is consisted of two masses, m1 and m2. And suppose m1 is heavier than m2. These two masses are connected by a string and hang over a pulley. Let's solve the acceleration of this system using Newton's approach. So I have the gravitational force for mass m1 in the downward direction, and the string force is upwards. We have these same two forces for the second mass. Now I write the second law of Newton for each of these masses. So here is the equation for the first mass, and here is for the second one. Now if I add these two equations, then I get rid of t, and I come up with this simpler form, and I can find the acceleration. But now let's solve this same problem using D'Alembert's principle. First, I suppose the system is going through some virtual small disposition. So m1 went downwards and m2 went upwards. As I said, I suppose m1 is heavier than m2. Now I add the inertia forces, which are always in the opposite direction of the movement. So for the first mass, the inertia force is upward, and the second mass, the inertia force is downward. Again, I repeat myself, it is always in the opposite direction of the movement. So now I can write the summation of all the works done by all the forces. So first, the gravitational force is downwards, and the movement, which I suppose is equal to delta r, is downwards too. So it is going to do a positive work, m1g times delta r. But for the inertia force of the first mass, the mass moved downwards, but the force is upwards. So it has to be put having a negative sign. For the second mass, the gravitational force is downwards, but the mass is moving upwards. So again, it has a negative work. And the inertial force of the second mass is again negative. So we could directly write this equation, and by crossing out delta R from this equation, we come up with this simpler form, and after a little simplifying, we could find the acceleration. This is the same answer that we came up with using the Newton's method. But instead of writing two different equations for each of these masses, we could directly find this equation, and we didn't need to bother with the string force. As systems get more and more complex, the power of D'Alembert's principle shows itself more and more. But the history didn't end there. D'Alembert's principle paved the path for Joseph-Louis Lagrange to introduce analytical mechanics, or Lagrangian mechanics, whose method did not rely on Cartesian coordinates or forces of the system. It only needed some generalized coordinates and the total energy of the system to predict the motion. So now you get to decide, who was D'Alembert? Was he a fraud or a genius?